In the early days of Asgard, when its gleaming walls shone like molten gold beneath the eternal skies, the gods gathered in council. Their eyes, filled with worry, turned to the distant horizon where the threat of the giants loomed ever closer. "We need a fortress that no enemy can breach," said Odin, his voice as deep as thunder, his one eye gleaming with foresight. His mighty form, cloaked in shadow and wisdom, towered over the gathering. The task was vast, building a wall strong enough to guard the heavens. One fateful day, a tall and mysterious builder, cloaked in gray and dust from long travels, approached the gods. His face was hidden beneath a hood, but his eyes glinted with a confidence that stirred unease in the divine hall. "I can build your wall," he declared, his voice like the steady beat of iron upon stone. "But my price is not of gold or silver. I ask for Freya's hand and for the sun and moon." Freya, goddess of beauty, her golden hair flowing like wheat fields under the sun, recoiled in shock, her sapphire eyes narrowing in fury. The gods murmured among themselves, their voices a storm of protest. "How dare you ask for such treasures?" roared Thor, his broad frame tense with anger, his hand gripping Mjolnir. The hall vibrated with his fury. But amidst the gods, Loki stepped forward, a sly smile curling his lips. His eyes, ever shifting like the flicker of flames, gleamed with mischief. "Let him try," Loki whispered to Odin, his voice as smooth as silk. "He cannot possibly succeed, and when he fails, we lose nothing." Odin, his one eye gleaming with wisdom yet shadowed by doubt, stood tall, his raven-black cloak rippling in the wind. Trusting Loki's infamous cunning, he addressed the mysterious builder, his voice deep and commanding. "You may claim Freya, the sun and the moon, but only if you build the wall of Asgard in 6 months, and with no aid save your stallion." The builder, cloaked in a rough tunic, his face weathered yet full of confidence, smirked. His eyes gleamed with ambition. "It shall be done," he declared, his words dripping with certainty. The gods, standing in the golden halls of Asgard, chuckled amongst themselves, their armor glinting in the sun. They believed no mortal could achieve such a task alone. Freya, her radiant beauty unmatched, stood nearby, her golden hair flowing like sunlight. Her smile faded as the days passed. The builder and his massive stallion, Svadilfari, worked tirelessly, each stone fitting perfectly into place. The horse, with muscles rippling beneath its sleek coat, pulled colossal boulders as if they were feathers. The sound of stone upon stone echoed through Asgard, each thud a reminder of the builder's progress. Odin watched from his throne, brows furrowed in concern. "He works faster than any mortal should," murmured Thor, his hammer resting heavily by his side. Freya, her usually rosy cheeks pale with worry, whispered, "He might actually succeed." Her heart raced as she gazed upon the nearly completed wall. Loki, the ever-cunning trickster, felt the weight of his mischief pressing heavily upon him. The gods had trusted his sly counsel, and now they stood on the brink of losing not only Freya, but the sun and moon, the very heart of Asgard's power. His sharp eyes flickered with worry as he whispered, "I must act swiftly, or all shall be lost." The moon hung low that night, casting a silver glow over the half-finished wall. The cold wind carried the scent of pine and earth, rustling through Loki's dark, tousled hair. The builder, a giant cloaked in mortal disguise, slept soundly by the towering stones, his massive stallion Svadilfari resting nearby, its coat shining like polished steel under the moonlight. Loki's mind raced. His eyes narrowed as a mischievous smile curled upon his lips. "A beast drawn by desire can be easily led astray," he murmured. In a swirl of magic, his body shifted and twisted until he stood as a graceful mare, sleek and beautiful, his coat glimmering in the moonlight. With a soft whinny, Loki pranced before Svadilfari, enticing him with every flick of his silver tail. The stallion's ears perked up, his nostrils flared, and without a second thought, he broke free from his tether. Mesmerized, the great horse followed the enchanting mare into the darkened forest, leaving the towering stones behind. The night air crackled with the quiet triumph of Loki's trickery. Yet danger still lingered in every shadow of the trees. At the break of dawn, the builder awoke with a start, his brow damp with the chill of the morning air. His eyes, once steady with purpose, now darted about in alarm. Svadilfari, his mighty stallion, was nowhere to be found. A gnawing panic crept into his chest as he scoured the stony grounds, calling out in desperation. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant roar of the river, but there was no sign of his horse. His heart pounded, for without Svadilfari, the towering stones lay unmoved, heavy as mountains. His hands, which had once shaped the very foundation of Asgard's walls, now trembled. Time, once his ally, became his enemy. His progress slowed to a crawl, the towering walls mocking him as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Fury surged through him, his breath ragged with frustration. "The gods have deceived me," he roared, his voice echoing through the hills. In that moment of rage, his human guise melted away, revealing the hulking form of a giant, his skin like stone, his eyes burning with malice. From the halls of Asgard, Odin's gaze narrowed. "So, the truth is laid bare," he muttered. He raised his hand, summoning Thor. The god of thunder, with his fiery red beard and stormy eyes, stepped forward, Mjolnir in hand. "End this deception," Odin commanded. With one mighty swing, Thor's hammer struck, and the giant fell, his body crumbling like the stones he once sought to conquer. In the guise of a sleek mare, Loki galloped through mist-shrouded forests, leading the mighty stallion Svadilfari far from Asgard's gleaming walls. The night air was thick with the scent of pine and earth, and the moon bathed the wilderness in a ghostly glow. Each hoofbeat echoed in the stillness as Loki and Svadilfari moved deeper into the wilds. Days bled into nights, and as time wore on, their bond grew stronger, the once noble stallion now entranced by the mare's otherworldly grace. In those quiet days, beneath the shadows of towering oaks and along the banks of silver streams, the two remained inseparable, their union sealed in the heart of the untamed wilderness. But Loki's trickery was far from finished. When he returned to Asgard, his form had shifted once more. No longer the alluring mare, yet he did not return alone. His belly was heavy with life, and soon he birthed a foal unlike any seen before. A strange creature with 8 powerful legs, its coat shimmering like silver under the sun. "This is Sleipnir," Loki said with a mischievous grin, offering the mighty horse to Odin, its 8 legs a symbol of untamed power and swiftness. The gods marveled, though suspicion flickered in their eyes. Loki's gift was both an apology and a reminder of his chaotic, unpredictable nature. Freya, her golden hair cascading like sunlight over her shoulders, approached Loki, the weight of relief still heavy in her heart. Her robes, shimmering in soft hues of amber and rose, trailed along the stone floor of Asgard's hall. The air was thick with the scent of the earth, and a distant wind whispered through the open arches, carrying with it the lingering tension of the gods. Her piercing blue eyes, though softened with gratitude, held a stern gaze. "Thy mischief, Loki, nearly cost me my freedom," she spoke, her voice steady, but the undercurrent of fear still palpable. Loki, leaning casually against a pillar, looked every bit the trickster he was. His raven-black hair, wild and untamed, framed his sharp, fox-like face. A sly smirk played upon his lips as his emerald eyes sparkled with mischief. "Ah, but was it not my cunning that spared thee, Freya?" he replied smoothly. "The wall stands tall, the sun and moon shine still, and thou art free." His words dripped with pride, but there was a playfulness in his tone, as though the whole ordeal had been nothing more than a game. Freya's gaze narrowed. She nodded, yet her trust in Loki was fragile, her voice soft but firm. "Wherever thou tread, Loki, chaos follows." The gods stood gathered in the golden halls of Asgard, their faces a mix of awe and unease as they regarded Loki, the trickster who had both saved and endangered them. Odin, his one eye gleaming with ancient wisdom, stepped forward. His raven-black cloak billowed around him as he rested a weathered hand on Sleipnir's sleek, 8-legged form. The horse, with its shimmering mane and powerful build, stood silently beside its master, as if sensing the weight of the moment. "We owe thee our thanks," Odin began, his voice deep as the thunderous skies he ruled, his gaze fixed on Loki, sharp and piercing. "Yet know this, thy trickery hath brought us to the brink of doom." Loki stood before them, his lean figure cloaked in shadow, a sly grin curling at the corners of his lips. His eyes, bright and mischievous, betrayed little of the chaos he had wrought. "A bit of disorder stirs life's cauldron," he replied with a careless shrug, his voice light, almost mocking. Yet beneath the bravado, even Loki felt the weight of his near-catastrophic gamble. The air hung heavy, thick as the mists over Yggdrasil, and though the gods had escaped disaster this time, they knew well the dangers of trusting the ever-elusive Loki. The mighty wall, towering high and steadfast, encircled Asgard like a shield forged from the very bones of the earth. Its stones, cool and smooth to the touch, gleamed beneath the pale light of the stars, a testament to the god's power and the cunning mind of Loki. In the crisp air of the golden halls, all was still, yet the tension of what had transpired lingered like an unspoken truth. Odin, his one eye gleaming with ancient wisdom, stood in silent contemplation, his weathered face betraying no emotion. His raven-black cloak fluttered gently in the cold breeze as he surveyed the work, knowing the wall was both their protection and a symbol of Loki's unpredictable nature. "He saved us," murmured Thor, his muscular arms crossed over his broad chest, Mjolnir hanging heavy at his side. But at what cost? The gods, each resplendent in their divine forms, Freya with her golden hair, eyes bright yet filled with a quiet unease, whispered among themselves. They could feel it, the weight of Loki's deception, a cleverness that had spared them, yet a trickery that none could ever truly trust. Loki, with his sly smile and wild eyes, lingered in the shadows, his lithe frame draped in mischief, as always. "Did I not deliver Asgard's salvation?" he asked, his voice dripping with mock innocence. But they knew, as did he, that this cleverness was a double-edged sword, sharp enough to protect yet dangerous enough to destroy. Asgard was safe, but none would ever forget this day, nor would they forget the fleeting loyalty of the trickster god.